here with Stephen and Jesse from the Biblical Hitmen. Gentlemen, how are you?
Very
Doing
good.
Doing
So
good.
start with whichever one you want. You guys choose. But tell us who you are and what you do.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Go ahead, Jesse.
All right, I won.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name's
I'll be
Jesse.
I'll be the adult here. Go ahead, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name's Jesse. I am a residential plumber out in Las Vegas, and we are the Biblical Hitmen. We're pretty fresh in the game, but yeah, man, we're really enjoying the podcast community. We're going to the Bohemian Grove, so we got invited to that. That's cool.
I know we talked about that last week.
Yeah, and I bought my tickets today, so there we go. Boom! I bought my flight tickets to Leesburg or to Orlando, so that's going to be a blast. But yeah, man, off to you, Stevie. I don't want to take up too much time. There
No,
we go.
yeah. I'm Steven, and I'm one of the hosts of the Biblical Hitman. You can find our show on YouTube, the Biblical Hitman on YouTube, pretty much on everything: Instagram, X, Facebook, and Instagram. You can check us out there. But for myself, I'm a career fireman here in the Central Florida area, and I do that full time. And I also podcast full time. And life's been great. It's been fun. The journey of starting a podcast and kind of getting in the game and getting in the mix, with the community that, pretty much what your show's about, what we like to talk about. It's all kind of like, has a lot of connections and similarities and stuff. But man, it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. And I tip my hat to the guys that have been doing it longer than we've been doing it because, it's incredible work and dedication and it's fun.
Yeah, Stevie's been stealing your broadcasting seeds term a lot lately. I've noticed. He's
I
like,
have.
we're broadcasting seeds, brother.
That's
And
what
I'm
it's
like,
for, man. That's what it's there for.
It's an awesome name, man, and we talk about so many topics, with your show and other shows and everything. And it just kind of throws a little golden nugget out there to people and, tickles their curiosity to go research it themselves. And then they'll end up.
I mean, at some point you got to harvest those seeds, right? And that's what the knowledge is. So you plant them, let them grow, and
Exactly.
reap what you sow.
right?
Yeah.
So where did the name Biblical Hitmen come from?
I'll let CV take that one away. That was all him.
Jeez.
That's all him.
Jeez.
I love it.
It's funny because when we first started out, when we all, because we're missing Taylor. Taylor's he's our third guy, and really me and Jesse started. We were a part of a different show. Talked about similar things, just outside of a biblical lens, but we were part of the podcast scheme a little bit. And this was probably like 4 years ago or so, and things just kind of fell through again. Like going through those experiences, you start seeing how it is how to get along with a show together. It's like a band pretty much, but
yeah, right.
And I mean, I hear that comparison a lot, it's like a band's, and it really is. But anyways, me and Taylor linked up because we were both of our shows were a part of a multimedia group. And so we collabed a few times, and really we kind of just hit it off. We were talking about, a lot of the things we get into the show now. And, Jesse was always a part of our show. He didn't know it or not, but he was always like a part of our show. He'd always be like
The only guest.
he was like the only guest, he's like a quick fill-in guy. And
Hey man, you want to record tonight?
Right? Exactly. But our show was called Remnant Warriors Podcast. And so we all three just kind of coming together, and, it started becoming fun. And so we were like, hey, let's rebrand the show. It's going to be the Biblical Hitmen. If you look at the logo, you can kind of see in the background, it's like a dystopian world where you've got, Dogman, Bigfoot, you got UFOs, aliens, and fallen angels and stuff.
And describe the character. So Stevie is the Book of Eli.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can see the sword.
Right. And
looking at it
Taylor
right now.
is Hitman 47 or whatever that is, right? That's the character.
Yeah, was it 41? Something like that. Yeah.
I think it's 47. I don't know that.
Yeah, maybe. You might be.
All right, go give it a goog. And then I'm, of course, the one and only John Wick, baby boy. So
that's it.
It's
if John
cool.
Wick had
Love
a
it.
beard,
Right.
Oh yeah, he doesn't have a beard though.
He doesn't have a beard.
I have a cool dog though. Similar.
Yeah, but the name, the Biblical Hitman, we kind of put it together, and my thoughts about it were,
That was all you, man. You totally.
It's kind of like we talk about the things in the world. We talk about supernatural things per se,
Yeah.
and the majority of the world doesn't go to the Bible with these things, and
They
so
don't.
we do. And really, we've just been letting the truth just do its thing, and it naturally, becomes something that just takes out narratives or shows you a different perspective on things. Where I think people at the end of their conclusions would go, "Yeah, God's real, stuff's real." There's a lot of history to it. A lot of it's hidden from us, but we get into a bunch of that stuff. But that's the biblical hitman, and that's kind of where we ran with that, and it's been a hit.
Yeah, it's
nice.
been great. Yeah, well, the Remnant Warriors was like Stevie really was like, dude, when you look up Remnant Warriors, it's you see it a lot of different places. So we wanted to be more unique and more original.
Yeah, well,
And it's a good idea. It was
first
great
time I
for
heard your name, I was like, what?
yeah, everybody does
And
this
I'm
with
trying to
us.
remember. I got to look back. First time I heard that name.
I love to hear this kind of
Where
stuff. I
were
love it.
you?
Yeah.
I think you guys were on NDS.
Yeah, of course, right?
Nice.
I think that's where I heard you first.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah, they are awesome. Well, speaking
Yeah.
of Bohemian Grove.
Shout out to David,
Yeah.
Tob. Those guys invited us there, and I cannot
Yeah,
wait to
I'm
go.
annoyed that I can't go.
I almost didn't.
I have to go to Colorado next week and then Montana, play,
Man, a
play
man of
adult.
many hats.
Play adult.
Play adult.
So yeah, my whole family lives in Colorado now. So
Okay.
my mom's, I wouldn't say she's just not, she's old. So I've got to go help her out. So,
Okay, well, that's good.
so the question I ask, and I'll just ask Jesse first. It's the same question for both of you, but since we've started this trend, what got you into this whole world of high strangeness? That's what I'll call it, because it's not just biblical. It's not just cryptids. It's not just paranormal. It's not UFOs. It's all of it. So I just call it high strangeness. So what planted the seed in you,
Brother,
to enter this universe?
I got a long story, and I'll try to keep it short, brother. It's from childhood.
Gotcha.
I lived in a house that was built in the late 1700s, maybe late 1800s. I might be off on that, but I grew up in Geneva, New York, and you're well aware you're in New York as well.
Yes.
So a very old house, very old town, certainly haunted.
Lakeside, awesome lakeside.
What's that?
I said awesome lakeside town.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful
gorgeous.
town.
Yeah.
Lots of big wine town as well. Rugged though, old, very old, run down. But I grew up in that house, had a lot of encounters that I didn't really experience. And then my father moved into a big brick warehouse in Lyons, New York.
Okay.
And it's right across from the Erie Canal. And it's
Yeah.
a very old brick warehouse. And that's where I saw my first ghost, and maybe only ghost I ever saw. We lived on the second floor of this massive brick warehouse, very old. And I was walking down, it was like the sun was going down. I was walking down the hallway, and I looked to the doorway. There's only one way up, one stairway up, very long stairway up, and there's a window right there. So the sun was just going down, and I see like this silhouette of what looks like to be my dad wearing a baseball cap. And I was like, Dad? I looked at him, I'm like, Dad? And then he didn't respond to me. And I guess I started to scream. And then I was just sitting there frozen in fear. And my dad grabbed me from the left side out of nowhere. And I remember he had his glasses on. He had a softball bat in his hand. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't my dad. And then we both looked at the doorway. He's like, what are you screaming at? And the thing was gone. So I guess that's my first encounter. Like, I held on to that my entire life. And then I had many more encounters after that. But that's what I held on to it. And that's what really sparked my eventually, because I was scared of that for a while. And I had to stay in that warehouse, by the way. I had to live there. So I slept under the covers till I was like 14. So, it was, and I didn't say my age. I was probably around 7.5, 8 years old around that time. But yeah, that's what started it all for me, that experience. And I had many more. I saw little red dots. I was in the Adirondacks in upstate New York around a year or two later. Little red dots going behind the moon, back and forth, buzzing around behind the moon. And I'm like, what is that? just stuff you hold on to from childhood.
Yeah,
I'll never forget it. It's fascinating to me.
absolutely. What about you,
Yeah.
Steven?
It's crazy. I have a few stories, but just to kind of just condense it all. I've had quite a few sleep paralysis experiences. I don't think it's what science is trying to solidify this experience as. I think it's a real experience. But anyways, that was like, I would say sleep paralysis is a big one for me, to where when I've had these experiences happen to me, usually I'm talking about Jesus or the Bible or something the night before with whoever. But this one experience I had, we had a big conversation in a dorm room with a bunch of, different people, boyfriends, girlfriends. It's kind of like a get together. Anyways, the conversation came up pertaining to the Bible, and I kind of just got into it. I knew the Bible at that time, and anyways, just kind of having a conversation with all these people. But anyways, the night comes and end up going to sleep, and I remember waking up. I was awake in the middle of the night. I could move my feet. The sheets were moving, but I was like paralyzed, man, and just filled with fear. I knew something was that there was this presence around me, and so where my senses were picking up the presence, my eyes followed, and I locked eyes with this thing that was a big shadow figure, right? Probably like 9 feet tall. It was kind of like bigger than the doorway because its head was kind of like blocking that top doorway sill. And as soon as I kind of had an idea of what it was, and it knew that I was having those thoughts, it zoomed right up next to my bed, pretty quick, like
Really?
supernaturally quick.
Nope.
And it just started strangling me, and so I'm getting choked in laying in bed. And I remember I just prayed to God and just, like, take this away from me, I need your help. Pretty much like a fear of impending doom is like what I had. And so my right arm broke free, and so I went and choked it. And as it's like in this tussle with me, it's also speaking a different language,
Do
like
you
a
know
like
what
a
it
like
was?
a dark voice. I don't know, maybe Enochian. Maybe it
I
was
was gonna say that
ancient
Enochian,
Latin or something, right?
the language of Mordor.
Right?
Right.
Man, dude. But
Right.
what ki
Something like that, right?
yeah, what kinda made this whole experience, real, even more real for me, is my girlfriend at the time was laying next to me, and she saw the whole thing. And so she saw
Right.
me grabbing with my arm in the air, because when I
Sure you
woke
weren't
up out of this
wrestling
state,
with her?
right?
I'm just kidding, sorry.
Right? She was grabbing my arm,
Wow.
like, from its reach, you know? And so that one was pretty gnarly, man. And I've had a few other supernatural experiences where I've gotten some confirmation from certain things, but there's definitely a realm that we can't see. We try to figure it out. I don't think we'll ever be able to figure it out, honestly, but it's very fascinating.
Unless something changes. Something,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a time that will change, but
Uh-huh.
we're just not there yet.
What do you mean by
No.
that?
After the second coming, all the stuff, you know, revelation, I believe after all that will.
Everyone will finally believe.
Yeah.
Finally,
They
there we go.
should, allegedly.
Right.
Yeah.
So and even with that being said, as we know, which we've talked about this, Stephen and I have at least, that even after the millennial reign, it's not over. Not technically. We still got one more tussle with Gog, Magog, and
Yep.
the whole thing after Satan marches on Jerusalem. So, but we'll see at the end of the day, the kingdom of God. I
Yeah.
feel like most of this will be revealed. So,
Right.
Yeah, it says something about like people like you that have the ability to. I don't know if you can see auras all the time. I do recall when we had you on our podcast that you said that you could see auras. And I found that fascinating because in general, there is people all over the world, and it's well documented, it's everywhere, that have all these abilities that I don't have and that most people don't have. And it's like, where does this come from? Is it like that Rh negative bloodline? You know, is it a learned trait? Like for you, I remember you said something about how you kind of something happened to you and
Died.
then
I basically I drowned.
you drowned, right?
Yeah.
You had a dying experience.
I had a near-death experience that
Right.
wasn't a near-death experience. Like, I don't remember anything. Like, I never saw light. I never talked to Jesus. I didn't, none of that. I didn't have a, life review or anything. I just remember waking up, spitting salt water everywhere.
Wow.
Wow.
And, some guys that I know were, pumping my chest, and I was on a rubber boat in the middle of the, not in the middle, but in the Atlantic Ocean.
So crazy.
And then shortly thereafter, like, what is happening? Like, I remember making an appointment with this is not me. This is not my show. It's my show, but this is not my time to talk, but I'll tell the story real quick.
I don't know. Yeah, tell it.
So, but I went and made an appointment with our doctor, the dive officer, like, what is happening to me? He thought I was insane. So I literally got sent to psych.
Wow.
And kind of told I was, having trauma related, blah, 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 whatever, and this was in the 90s. So it was really before like PTSD was really a thing, before they called it PTSD. Right. But I did, but it wasn't, that's how it was causing this.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
near death experiences fascinate me, man. And there's a book I'm actually interested in. It's in my shopping cart. I'm gonna get it soon. But I was watching the Sean Ryan show, right? And he had this guy on, some Christian guy or whatever, but he was telling these stories. This guy wrote a book. I forget exactly what the book's called, but he writes this book, and it's just a big compilation of all these near death experiences. And so he starts like sharing some of these stories and getting into it. He starts sharing this one lady's testimony, and she had this, as she's in the hospital, right? She codes, she goes into cardiac arrest. She levitates from her body, and above her, she can just see like just pure light. And she's kind of like going up towards it. But as she's going up towards it, again, she's dead, right? She's having like this astral, maybe like just like experience, right? Who knows, right?
like, out of
Which
body,
might be
for
that,
sure.
which
Right.
might be that dimension, which right in the middle there, it's like a lobby or something. But as she's levitating upwards, she rotates down and she's looking over the whole entire operation that's going on. And they're working the code. They get her back, but she's not like in her body. And so they start doing emergency surgery. And as they're cutting her open, they're like, one of the nurses or doctors or whatever starts to like say, "Man, it stinks," or something like that, right? And which that happens, right?
Yeah.
But but she saw this happening, and as she's like up in the air, she sees this marking, like this stamp or like a tag, whatever it is, on the blade of the fan that is like facing the ceiling, right?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's seeing all this stuff. And anyways, the emergency catastrophe that's going on right now, they ended up saving her. She goes back into her body, and she starts telling everyone what she saw in her experience. When she's out of the ICU and she's out, kind of like moving out of that recovery, she was like wanting to go back into the operating room, and she wants to go see that fan. Anyways, they got clearance to go do it. She goes up into the fan, or someone goes and someone goes and takes a picture of the top of the fan. It comes back and it's the same exact decal that she saw, but it was like the company's serial number and all this stuff.
Yeah,
on there.
right.
And so she ends up also finding that healthcare worker who was in the room, who I think it was a surgeon, who said that she stank real bad. And when she said that to her, she said that her life changed. Like her life changed. She started crying. She was
The
just
doctor
like
or the healthcare
what?
worker. Yeah. Like,
Like,
no
how did you
way.
know that?
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you were laughing at it. Like, and I'm like, wow, that kind of blew me away.
That stuff,
Brother.
that type of stuff is intense. And
Can I tell a story real quick? It's the
absolutely.
same story,
No,
but a
you
different
can't,
story. And it's about
Jesse.
someone I know.
No, you can't.
All right.
Yeah, of course you can.
I'm leaving. Dude, this is from October 1st. This is a story about the shooting in Las Vegas, and I'm not going to name his name. He wasn't there. I had friends that were there, and luckily none of them got
Talking about the Mandalay Bay.
Yes. October 1 shooting in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay at the Route 91 festival. This story is the same, very similar story you just told. And my buddy told me he has a family friend, mother and her 2 daughters, his family friends, went to this festival. And as the shooting occurred, the mother got like pinned to the ground straight from like the top of her head. And she instantly died. And one of the daughters was shot too. And the other daughter was running. They're all running for their lives. And the daughters ended up in a fenced area where they were trying to jump. And the daughter dropped a family heirloom bracelet on the ground. And the daughters ended up surviving. Well, guess what? So did the mother. They found the mother in the hospital. Long story short. And the daughter said to the mother, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I got chills right now, bro. I got chills, bro." The mother said to the daughter, and the daughter said to the mother, "Mom, I love you. I'm so happy you're alive. I'm so sorry I lost the family heirloom, the bracelet." And the mom goes, "Don't worry, I know where it is. When I died, I went out of my body and I followed you. And I watched you drop your bracelet right by the fence."
Yeah, I just got chills too, actually.
They went back and found the bracelet by the fence where the mom said that she saw it.
See, I mean, like, what is that, right?
Right? Like, how do you chew that up and swallow that? I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, like, so there's a book, and this was really so I kind of fought it to an extent, like, no, this isn't, I didn't know what was going on, but like with me being able to see, you can see like when people, like, where they don't feel like, if like you were hurt or injured or something, right? Like, I could tell you, like, without you saying, you're like, "Oh, I'm hurting." And I could be like, "Well, wait." And I could probably tell you exactly where.
Wow.
Without you telling me, because I could see it. Does that make sense? Just
No,
because
but
the color, well, because the colors are different. It's
Wow.
so bizarre. I also see, because the auras, people have different color auras. So I literally can tell you when someone's an evil person
wow, just by the color.
just by the color of their aura.
And is it generally the same color, or is it?
No, I mean, it depends. It really depends on, I can tell people's moods. I can tell, all the stuff just by, it's a superpower for sure.
Wow.
Sometimes you don't want to know because it's a lot of noise, but it's not like I talk to dead people or something like that. It's not, but I can kind of shut it off and turn it on and turn it off to an extent. Can't like see your guys' auras because it has to be in person.
Interesting. That makes sense. It does.
Yeah. So like there's certain people I always want to meet. One of them is Donald Trump. I've never met him in person. I've never seen him. I just want to see him. That's it. I want to be able to see him.
You see him and he's like 6'6", and you're like, "What?
What? You're a Nephilim, man.
I did.
I knew
think
it.
you were actually a giant."
One of the worst auras, and I'll say it, I've said it publicly many a time, but one of the worst auras I've ever seen, and it won't shock you at all, is Hillary Clinton.
You saw her.
Really?
Horrendous. Yeah, I actually did. I was on one of her security details for the New York State Fair years ago. And yeah. Nope.
Wow. In Syracuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she was Senator Clinton.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. No thanks.
What was the aura?
It was awful. It
Awful?
was like, the way I can describe it is a lot of it was like, it had the color of like motor oil.
Oh.
You know,
Like-
it's funny. You say
Which is
motor-
usually not a good thing.
You say motor oil, and then I just immediately think of the whole conspiracy with black goo.
Black goo came to my
Right?
mind immediately, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black
yeah.
goo, man. The black goo.
Did I read that because of you?
I don't
I
know.
feel like maybe I did. I don't remember.
Maybe we had an episode on it, but man, it's gnarly. It's in
Right?
so much of
It's
the
a little gnarly. And she's not the only one like that. I mean, there's others, and some are politicians, some are just people. I've also dealt with things that I knew were not of this earth because they didn't have an aura.
Whoa.
They're just like black, bro. Like, I mean, my wife and I had an incident where we walked by something in our neighborhood like at night. When we were on it's like probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And this thing was so evil. It was like sucking light. That's how I felt to me. Does that make sense? Like it was kind of like a black hole, like it like just sucks light.
Whoa.
That's how this kind of was, but it was just but it was a humanoid form, like figure in like a hoodie.
You know what that reminds me of? Vampires.
Sort of. Yeah, very much so. Do you remember there was a Stephen King novel that he wrote and they made an HBO movie of it? Show maybe? Damn it, I wish I could remember. But that's kind of what it reminds me of. Is this hooded figure. And I literally, man, yeah, my wife and I walked by it and it was, and here's how you know it. Besides that, I kind of pushed her off to the side and I just like, and I don't even know how to describe it. Because I also do I'm a Reiki practitioner as well. So I just pushed as much light as I could. That's kind of how I felt. Like I envisioned myself just glowing like like a, like, you guys have seen Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
But like when he, like,
Yeah.
with the deer and the
Right.
stuff with the, what the hell is that called? That ghost figure.
Man, I can't
You know what I'm
remember.
talking about? But like, it
Yeah.
was that blinding white light. That's like what I envisioned me doing.
Dude, you know what this reminds me of? You know what you remind me of? The movie Unbreakable with Bruce Willis when he
Yeah.
got in the train accident.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And he wasn't hurt. And then after that, he started knowing the bad people. He knew where they were, what they were doing. And he would walk past them or bump into them. And he followed that. Remember the movie? He followed that guy because he knew he was going to do something bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know that person. I mean, I guess I could if I wanted to, maybe something like that. But so then we passed this thing and, I was like, yep. And as soon as I did that though, it reacted, like it moved to the side.
I knew.
Because otherwise it was coming
Really?
straight at us. And that was like one of my first real things of spiritual warfare. But it shifted to the side and walked by us. And we walked probably 3 or 4 steps. We both turned around. It was gone.
Jeez. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was freaky.
this makes me think, with the whole UFO disclosure and whatever that's going to look like, around the corner. But like, are there different life forms living with us here on Earth?
Well, this is one of the things I want to ask you because of your sleep paralysis stuff. But first, let me the Light After Dark or Light After Death is a really good book about near-death experiences. Since we kind of got sidetracked with
Okay, yeah, I'll write that
but
down.
it's called The Light After Death, and obviously the listeners, but it's The Light After Death: My Journey to Heaven and Back by Vincent Todd Tolman, and with Lynn Taylor. And he's on a whole bunch of podcasts, and his story is pretty compelling, but some of it you're like, oh, I don't know, but he was kind of like guided through heaven, or something like heaven by his grandfather, but he didn't know it was his grandfather. It's just a cool story. It's just a cool story. You should, and look it up on YouTube because he's got a couple cool things and he's like in ministry now and his story is really cool and I would love to have him on. I just haven't reached out to him yet. And you guys would probably want to have him on too.
Of course.
Amazing. But Stephen, I know you probably enjoyed talking to Vicky Joy Anderson.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we had her on our show, we talked about my experience. We talked about what she has studied and understands from all of that stuff, right? Like she's probably the most well-researched person with sleep paralysis, and she has an interesting take on it where, and when I mentioned kind of like the astral realm, previously in the show, she kind of compares it as that's the state that's the experience that's happening. And she had mentioned as well where it's these entities that take you into it. And so we've also had Harley, go mind blank with his last name.
Harley Braun.
Harley Braun. We've had him on the show and he's had I mean, multiple experiences with sleep paralysis on a whole nother level, dude, to where like it's almost like the movie Stranger Things, man. It's like kind of wild. But I don't know. I mean, if it is a case where these entities are able to play around with, spirit per se. And I know we kind of talked about on the show we had you on with doorways. What if these doorways kind of get accessed and it's of some form of consent to where now you've opened the gates, right? So, whatever is outside of your will is going to probably take place. Um I don't know, and if it's this realm where it's either, Nephilim disembodied spirits, or if it's like what you say with this whole supernatural, war that's kind of like going on. Um, I see it as a like, what's the reason they do this, right? Maybe it's to try and manipulate your mind.
I
And
think they want your body. I think they want to be you.
they want your body, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe. For sure,
me and
maybe.
Jesse have done an episode in the past. This was with, our previous show. And there's a state of oppression that takes place with sleep paralysis.
For sure.
And we all know that oppression is the first stage of possession, right? And it just slowly grows over time to where, you've fully given consent for this thing to access, whatever wants and needs it thrives for. But we've also looked into what does this look like in the science field, and there are science people, there are scientists that are working on trying to understand it more fully. You've got a secular look at it to where it's just a bunch of chemicals firing in the brain, and they're justifying it for those things. But you have studies that I've also looked up and peer reviewed to where they've done sleep studies with people, and people that have high potential and a high rate of having these experiences. And at the conclusion of one of the studies that I looked into, I think it was like 1,700 patients or something, they started to lean towards that sleep paralysis is actually the state of oppression, to where this entity is
Right.
is trying to weaken you down and manipulate your mind and your beliefs and all this kind of stuff. And then boom, they have access.
Access.
There was an experience that
I'm
someone
trying to
has
remember
had.
there's something called that, but keep
What?
going.
I was going to relate that to an experience of someone that we know in the whole, social media things, and it's Billy Carson, right? Like
Yeah.
Billy Carson had a sleep paralysis experiment with aliens, and it changed his life. It manipulated him into doing what he's doing now. And so that's kind of like where I'm getting at with that. Maybe it's, who knows, maybe he's possessed. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe it was
I
just
think
what
he's
it is
manipulated.
he's
but
manipulated.
yeah, he's
Yes,
manipulated, right?
sure.
Like, but like certain things, and maybe he was turned into a agent of misinformation.
Sure. Yeah.
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 I
Highly
mean, we
possible.
kind of know at this point, but I think he believes a lot of what he says.
I agree.
Of course. Yeah.
I agree.
He got cooked
just-
by Wes Huff. Cooked.
Cooked.
That's God's plan right there, baby
Yeah,
boy.
right. But so I guess what I was getting at is there's a difference between possession and oppression.
Right.
And so, but if you're oppressed enough, at some point you're going to be like, God, make this stop.
Right.
And so if they wear you down, the enemy wears you down enough, you're just going to open a door at some point. So I also think it's hooked into, I think we had this conversation where we talk about Satan, or the Satan, the enemy, the Hasatan, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, there's entities whose jobs it is to break you down and make you slip. Right. And then they take that and they go to, the judge, who is, whether it's God, Jesus, you know what I mean? And say, hey, it's just like the Hasatan did with Job. Said, well, yeah, Job loves you, but only because he's rich.
Stevie was just talking about that.
Right.
Just before
No,
the podcast.
only because he's rich. So then God was like, yeah, go ahead, take it. see what he does. And that messes with people's heads.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait, like I worked hard for this, like da. But then you realize that it's one of those things, like you have to realize this isn't about you and your stuff. This is about you having faith and believing in God and Jesus, and Jesus is your Lord and Savior.
Right.
That's what it's actually about. It's not about all this other crap.
Right. And also for me, like I wanted to bring this up. We all know this. We just talked about how New York is haunted.
I think the whole damn state's haunted.
The whole damn state's haunted.
But think about it going back to like natives, everything, like insane.
Yeah. You got the triangle. That's the Massachusetts triangle. I can't remember Bridgewater Triangle. Is that what?
Bridgewater. Yes.
Bridgewater. That with King Philip, which his name's not King Philip. It was an Indian chief, but they named him King Philip. That was a horrific bloodshed, like Gettysburg style, maybe even worse.
Yeah, like Manassas.
Yeah, and this is where I'm going with this. So, me growing up in a haunted house, in a haunted brick warehouse, I wouldn't call it haunted, but there was spirits in there. They were there. I was never tormented or necessarily oppressed, maybe approached, I guess you could say. But my point with this is that there's the hitchhikers factor
for sure
to these entities, especially demonic entities. And if you're in a house, you live in a house that had been whatever you want to call it, an Indian burial ground. Usually the occultists perform rituals which arise these spirits, which they're trapped in this certain place. That's how I believe it. And you're there. You're the wrong place at the wrong time, and you're going to get tormented. But if you go to like places like maybe Skinwalker Ranch or these other places, there's this hitchhiker effect that will follow you home. And that is one of the more rare things. But I believe certainly it is demonic in sorts. And it is a little bit different from, and I think it's similar to like having like pushing against the barriers of evil and loving Jesus Christ and proclaiming and exposing darkness, really exposing the truth and bringing people to the light. I don't think they like that. So I think that is a part of that 100%.
Yeah. Well, there's actual stories of like Sasquatch hitchhiking to their home, like
following.
Yeah, and that's a slippery slope. But
have you seen the video of that? The video of the guy that went out and was like, this thing followed him home.
Yeah, well, Scott Carpenter talks about it, where he's like, they started messing with me at my house. Yeah.
Where does he live?
In East Tennessee. Well, he's dead now, actually.
Jeez.
And the like L.A. Marzulli will say they took him out.
Took him out.
Something took him out. But he's one of the people that also he would rebuke Bigfoot and Dogman and stuff that he came in contact with, and it would leave him alone. Because he was a big part of the Melba Ketchum Sasquatch DNA genome project. He collected a lot of evidence for it and whatnot. And he's convinced that they're Eliud, right?
Right.
So we've talked about this before.
Yeah, of course. Who's the guy that had that like big Bigfoot head that was like, it didn't look real, but he's like trying to convince everybody, and it was this massive giant head. Have you seen that?
I can't remember.
And he did like a bunch of videos on it.
Yeah, man.
And he pushed it out there, and it looked so fake. But
I can't. Well, it's because it was fake. But I can't remember. I can't remember who that was.
The way he was talking was too like, look at guys, look what I got. Like I cut the head off and Yeah. It was weird. That was a weird video.
You saw that other guy. Yeah, there's some folks that I don't know, man.
I was having thoughts, when we had our conversation with the show we had you on with the whole LEU topic and everything, and I kind of started like digging into it a little bit more. And there's a verse here because it's like, how do we get the concept of Bigfoot, Dogman, and all of these hybridized creatures? How do we have an explanation for that? Right. But doing some digging, and I found in Jude 1, Jude 1, verses 6 and 7, it says, and the angels with which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. He hath reserved in everlasting chains, under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering vengeance and eternal fire.
Ooh, wait.
Well,
What is that? What is it? Jude what?
Jude 1, verse 6 and 7. And so what we have here, from my understanding, is we have two examples of the same exact thing happening. It's just history repeating itself. And it's talking about basically the time before the flood, which it's referring to the angels that sinned, right? Abandoned their heavenly estate. This is Genesis 6. And so the flood happens, right? The flood happens after that. Then we have Sodom and Gomorrah, which is where I think the second incursion was. I think that's where we have the giants. This is where we have the Nephilim, in those days and after. So
Yeah, well, it makes complete sense. I mean,
yeah,
The
especially-
Raphaim, right?
but the one connection I made here
There's
is
way more than a Raphaim, but yes.
Yeah, the one connection I made here, and it says, giving them, there's talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? It's comparing the two situations before the flood and Sodom and Gomorrah and showing you that, hey, it's in like manner. And it says
Yeah, in
giving
like
over
manner.
And it says giving over to fornication and going after strange flesh. And so strange flesh is other flesh. It's not male or female. It's other flesh.
Because when they say other flesh, it's actually the Greek is Sakaros heteros, literally other flesh or different flesh, right?
Right.
Not just, so it suggests not just immortal sexuality,
Right. Heteros.
but
Yeah.
transgression of creating order, humans engaging in non-human entities, right? Period.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's a huge thing, Stephen. I think.
Yeah, I think too in Sodom and Gomorrah, I think they were breeding with animals. I think that they were breeding with other weird, strange flesh. And what's funny is I mentioned this to Jesse, and we actually brought it up one time and looked at it together. And it's this scene from the movie 300. And so you kind of have like it kind of feels biblical in a way, right? With like weird things going on with the Persian guy, thinks he's a god, shows like he's kind of like Nimrod, right, in a way.
But think he's a giant.
He's a giant. He's huge.
Yeah,
He's huge.
and there's actual stories of them like this. So what I love about 300, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Roll with it.
But that's exactly what happened. Is like those are the stories told the way that the stories were told. Like Frank, what's his name? Frank, the guy that wrote 300, wrote it that way. He wrote it from the supernatural view of this.
Yeah.
He didn't write it as the Odyssey tells it, or the whatever it is, the
Right. It was an
Right,
alchemical
right.
process. Xerxes walked into the water as a
Absolutely
normal
correct.
man and then
Yes.
came out a giant.
came out a giant,
Right.
and then all these different like weird entities that he had in his court.
Yeah, he became
Yeah,
he became a Gibborim.
Yeah, basically.
It's
He had
it's
all,
so wild.
dude, he had like Baphomet type people, androgynous folks and
Yeah.
goats and animalistic
Right.
hybrids.
Yeah.
Right.
So Sodom and Gomorrah, I mean, just look at the way they reacted to the angels, right?
Exactly. There was fornication present. There was lust in their heart for.
Like that wasn't anything new to them.
Well, I think they knew the story. I think they knew what was going on before the flood. I think they were like, dude, let's do this again. We're going to rule the world.
Yeah, right.
We're going to create men of renown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's wild.
Absolutely.
Man.
It is. That's a great
Man,
point
it's
though
wild.
with Jude 1.
But I think so my connection with this is if that was happening in Sodom and Gomorrah, and with the context of that verse, it's telling us the same thing happened in the Genesis 6 times, right? And if the incursion of hybridization was happening, the offspring of the Nephilim, I can see the connection with the Eliud thing, especially with some other people's experiences, right? That you've shared on our show and stuff. It's weird. There's a connection there, still gaps, but I'm kind of
we,
sold.
we talked about this with Bennett as well. Like last episode we had him on. What's up with Saint Christopher?
And the dog man.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
up with that guy?
Yeah.
He was saved,
So,
you know. And
absolutely, but he's absolutely like a dog man.
he's depicted as a dog man. It's like, what's the
wild.
deal with that? That's so crazy.
Well, I mean, you have dog men, you have lion men, you have I think that there's some
What's
my
that?
buddy-
Moab people, the linemen?
Yeah, right. The men of Moab.
There's a verse I want to read for you. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's I think it's out of Revelation, but anyways, it's when the these alien looking scorpion things come out of the pit, right?
Yeah.
But they have a body, a face like a lion, but like a man.
Yeah.
It's like wild.
Yes, it's like that. There's a movie. Well, who knows?
The Scorpion King?
Yes, but no.
I tried.
Well, so while you're looking at that, Saint Christopher, he was a Canaanite man.
Right. Canine.
Canaanite man, especially large and strong. Converted to Christianity, he wanted to serve Christ by using his strength to carry people across a dangerous river. And one day he carried a small child who became heavier with each step. That child revealed himself to be Christ, carrying the weight of the world. And martyred under Emperor Decius, Decius, 3rd century AD. There's also the dog-headed version, right? And based on early sources is, yes, a dog-headed man, humanoid, cryptid in Christian sainthood, the Acts of St. Christopher. Why the dog head? Some claim it's a mistranslation of the word Canaanite. But either way, Canaan, the people from Canaan weren't, human anyway. They were hybrid.
Brian of Demon Raisers brings that up all the time, and it fascinates me.
Nephilim, Eliud, pre-Adamic humanoid, whatever you want to call these people, right? Or a misunderstood tribe of beast men, I like to say.
It's wild.
You have a lot of that. Think about all of mythology, not just Christian mythology, but Greek and Phoenician and, Egyptian and Indian. And one of the things that so many, we don't really talk about, like Chinese. And you realize, like, when people were accusing Nero of being the Antichrist. There's a guy who's ruling all of Asia almost, that nobody ever talks about too. So, and I don't even know a lot about it. It's something I really want to look more into, but all these pantheons they all rhyme. They might not be exactly the same, but they rhyme.
Yeah,
right?
you said this last time. I found that interesting.
So they're what you just call the little g gods. Zeus, it was, he's got, him, Poseidon, you take any of them and they're little g gods. And so I think that they're all, obviously, I'm not the only one that thinks this, but they're all fallen angels. That's it. They're, as what does Gary Wayne call a lot of these things? The mafia godfathers, right?
Right.
Which are actually the watchers, the folks that are in the pit, the celestial mafia godfathers. That's what he calls.
That's what he says. Yep.
Yeah. So, like Kronos.
Yeah.
Samael.
Some
of these names are scary,
Yeah.
They are scary.
And I talked to, yesterday, I did an episode with the guy from 21 CD, John. If you guys have never heard of him, check his podcast out. And he's convinced that Samael is the enemy, the one.
Satan.
Yeah. That Samael is the main adversary here, which would make sense in all honesty if you really look at it.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I wanted to circle back around when we were talking about these he-goats and these
satyrs.
Yeah, the satyrs, right? And it's even in the Bible, right? Like
it is.
Isaiah chapter 13:21.
Kind of with Bigfoot too.
Yes. Yeah. And when you look at it, there's connections with Baphomet. There's connections with Pan, the god Pan. All this
all these
stuff.
damn goats.
is, man. There's something to it, man. And maybe it's Bigfoot related as well. I don't know.
Well, it's this whole hybrid stuff, right? All the hybrid stuff. There was a girl that was just on, I don't know, man. What's his name? Bo Kennedy gets some really good guests. He just had this girl on who was talking about her boyfriend, fiance at the time or whatever, was possessed. For like 3 years she was with this guy. And they talk about how she would like line her. So we're just talking about like the goat stuff. She would put salt around her bed, right? And she found that demons couldn't cross the salt line, but fallen angels could, right? And there's a one fallen angel that insisted that it was Lucifer. And one time it got on the bed and then got off the bed, but left a footprint in the salt. And it was half like goat. It was like a hoof print.
Right.
What? Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
But it was possessing her boyfriend.
Yeah. What?
But it left that track. And I think she took pictures of it, if I'm not
Oof.
mistaken.
That's crazy.
But I mean, think of all the mythical creatures, minotaurs.
Oh yeah, dude.
Satyrs, centaurs, lions, tigers, bears, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Sasquatch, why not?
Yeah.
Why not Sasquatch? Why not? I mean, there's even reports of Bigfoot. Well, people like they conflate it all, but like goat men in the U.S., right?
Interesting. I'm not too familiar with the goat men in the U.S.
And I'm trying to remember where, but I know that there is.
Have you guys ever caught the movie or watched the movie Cabin in the Woods?
Yeah, of course.
Dude.
Is that the one with who's
So
in that?
it's basically a group of 5 young friends, and they get this trip or something to where they go out into this cabin, but they don't know that they've been manipulated the whole time
Great
to
movie.
come to the cabin.
Well, it's not a great movie.
They've been chosen to come to the cabin, right? And anyways, it's they terrorize this group of young people in the cabin in the woods, right? And they're in this enclosed system. It's like a Truman Show of horror. And
Okay.
Well, it's like a big government op. It's like they got
Yes.
this big underground facility
It's
where
some
they have all this
MK Ultra
technology that's
nonsense, right?
controlling.
yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the thing is too is that they're doing rituals. They have to do the rituals. They have to get these 5 people to the cabin, right? And each person is fulfilling like an individual, personality, which that personality needs to get sacrificed to this god.
Wow.
And if they are not successful at this ritual, the whole world ends, right? The SCP creature 001 will Sigourney Weaver is in the movie, and she basically says that they're the gods of old.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of like maybe fallen angel reference.
Yeah, but very fallen angel reference. Yeah.
But anyways, I've always had this it's tickled my curiosity ever since we had one-on-one on our show.
Mr. Homunculus.
Mr. Homunculus, right. So he kind of brought this concept to my mind. And so it's what if they are like, what if it's like just a different compartmentalized, black op project, right, off to the side, to where maybe they've extracted some sort of angelic DNA, and they're doing a science experiment now of this incursion where they're building chimeras, they're building homunculuses, they're building these bodies for hosts to take them, right? And we know that there's like incubus and succubi and all these kinds of other female and male spirits out there in the demonic world. But it just makes me think, like, is it possible that there's an operation that the governments are running way, funded through a breakaway civilization, you may say, and they're doing DNA IVF experiments with,
Do you
ancient DNA.
Yeah, right.
And
Do
they're
you know
releasing
Darren
these things
Wilkinson
to the
is?
public. They're releasing them in 411 areas. They're releasing them in these.
Right.
You're starting to sound like Taylor, Stevie.
Oh gosh.
No, but it's why wouldn't it? That you have the deep underground, the DUMBs,
sure.
the deep underground military bases, and
Right.
and all these things, and A lot of people go missing in national forests, and like, why are the cryptids guardians for these places? And
Right, you know,
there's
you
a
guys know
lot of
about
this stuff.
the Mammoth Cave system,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I have a map overlay. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
yeah, the map overlay is wild.
But you know what's
There's
crazy?
cave systems that go from New England all the way down to over to Indiana and all the way down through the Appalachians.
Yeah, the Virginia and down close to almost Louisiana, right?
The furthest I've seen is Georgia, but
I think Georgia.
You're
Yeah,
probably
you're
right.
right.
Maybe you're right.
But no, I think you're right. So that's the Mammoth Cave system, and it's like when you overlap all the missing people in that area. Whew,
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Well, also cryptid side.
Yeah. That's wild.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, I wanted to finish this last point, but basically in the movie The Cabin of the Woods, they're releasing these demonic entities, and that's kind of like what the spirit behind it of either the zombies or the ghost woman or the werewolf, right? Because they have all these weird cryptids that are in there too in the mix. But we know like the host that's running the show is like evil. So I'm like, man, is it like, are they doing, and if there's rituals behind the movie too, right? So are they doing rituals to summon the spirit into the homunculus and now release them out? And it's just wild, dude. But carry
You
on.
guys know who Karen Wilkerson is?
Sounds familiar.
I think yeah, it sounds familiar.
So she's written a book. I think it's called Stolen Seed, and she's been abducted. She's a lifelong alien abductee, and she's one of the people that.
What does that mean, lifelong? You mean
Means that she's been abducted since she was a little girl, like more times than she can count. Not anymore because she found Jesus.
Interesting. Okay.
Allegedly, that stopped it.
Nipped it in the bud.
And she's done a lot of work, but really good book, actually. But she works with L.A. Marzulli, and I bring him up a lot. God. I just think he's onto a lot of stuff. He's been doing this for a long time.
He's OG, yeah.
And a lot of people don't like, you either love him or hate him. And I don't think love him, hate him is a thing, but a lot of people, he's made a living doing this, right?
Yeah.
But he really, I think he's one of the people that actually gives a shit.
Right.
Somewhere
from an undisclosed location in
the Santa Monica Mountains.
And you can see, you can see as he's getting older, he's just as like not. I think he's having less care, like meaning
right
in how he says things. I think he's just becoming more open mic. I love it.
But there's a little less self-censorship there, right? Yeah. And I think he's angry. I think he's a little pissed.
I think he's pissed.
I just saw a video of him the other day, and it said Ellie Marzulli loses it or something.
Yes, it was actually really good. You should watch it.
Yes,
okay, I'll watch it.
It is.
And he does. He gets a little ruffled. You don't see him that way very often.
It.
Good.
I love it.
But his whole theory, along with Karen kind of substantiates a lot of this, is that there is an alien, and I say alien, breeding program. Well, what they believe is that it's the fallen, and that they're building an army. That's what like cattle mutilations are about. All these things, like with the cattle mutilations, a lot of times the reproductive organs are taken, right?
Yes. Why? Yes.
And their theory is that they're creating artificial wombs to breed also whatever you are talking about.
You live in New York, and I live in New York. I lived in New York. Yeah. We know that cows are very hardy animals.
Very.
And they're very easy. They take care of them. They eat grass. Yeah. They're hardy. They can live through everything. So, so can their organs.
But they have a very similar, structure that it wouldn't be hard to turn that into artificial wombs for
anything.
Whatever. Stolen seed. Satan seed, the bad side of all this.
I know.
What are we making? But that's kind of, that's a very low level way of explaining this. But they also say that the gray aliens, are basically, they're not aliens. They're like meat suits from Nephilim. Right. Or something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah, I heard David.
And some of this stuff is very fantastical, and people are like, "Shut up!" Like we lost half the viewership.
No, they're still here, baby.
This is going to get 17 views on YouTube. You know what I mean? But and I don't care. But that's what I'm saying. And that type of stuff is insane.
Yeah.
But yet, man, it seems more plausible to me every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you guys familiar with the Collins Elite?
I've heard. Yeah. I haven't looked into it too far. But
Yeah. Well, there's a book that's out there. It's called Final Events, and it's a guy who goes in and just basically blows the lid open to what the Collins Elite was. It's almost like a Project Blue Book, but it was a separate organization. It was full of scientists, military officials, intelligence officers, people high in the hierarchy of the government, and it was a Christian organization, basically. This was the biased belief, right? That they went into this study and research and developed a whole program behind it. And basically, their whole conclusions with this whole thing is that they claim that these UFOs, these aliens, whatever it is, can speculate all day on it, but that they're demonic entities. And this program, if you look it up, if you Google it, it's pretty hard to kind of like find and to see what the program was about, but there's a lot of independent journalists that have gone and talked about it. There's a lot of FOIA documents that have come out and it's released, right? Like no one knew what Operation Mockingbird was till the FOIA got released and it got around social media and all that kind of stuff, especially 4 to 5 years ago when everything kind of just started. It's like conspiracies became like a big popcorn machine, dude, and it was just things were getting,
literally.
I mean, people
Popping
had
up
nothing else
everywhere.
to do 4 years ago but just stay home at some point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where you got a lot of podcasting and groups of people, starting to use their voice and wanting to, talk about these
Actually
concepts.
think critically.
Exactly. It was a wake up call for a lot of people, right? But like what is, the meat suit thing is mind blowing. It kind of just circles me back to the homunculus thing, right? Circles me
Right.
back around.
Shout out to Juan.
Yeah, shout out to Juan.
Yeah,
One-on-one
Juan.
podcast.
I haven't had him on the podcast yet. I need to get on that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be a good one.
he's filled with that.
I've seen him on so many podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm a fan, but it's one of those things like you're like, okay, do I want to open that right now?
And here's
Yeah.
the thing too. Here's
He's
the
enough
thing
great
too.
to
Sorry, I
shove
think I
my
hit the
head.
mute on my mic, but there's a book back here. It's called Exo Vaticana, and it's written by Tom Horn. And he talks about this idea of chimeras and homunculuses and all of these, public genetic programs and organizations that the quotes he shows you in his book about just the ethical views that these scientists have. It's kind of scary because the whole
Some of them have none.
yeah. And well, the whole concept of a mad scientist, I never knew what that looked like until your ethics are tested by hearing what people say when it comes to creating life. It's like a whole Frankenstein movie all over again, dude, right? Like it's
Terrifying.
which they're coming out with a Frankenstein movie.
Saw that.
Another because
I saw that.
we
Yeah.
can't. Why doesn't someone just make a Bible movie that's like
I know, dude.
actually like the Bible?
I know.
Like I've said this before. Phil Jackson, or not Phil Jackson, the guy who did Lord of the Rings. Come on, man, get on it. Like you can do this. You can turn the Bible into the.
Yeah.
I don't think they want that though, because people will be like, "Wait, what? That's in the Bible?" Like,
Right.
It would just wake everyone up, and of course they don't.
I
want
think
that.
it could lead to like a
Hey.
spiritual revolution.
Absolutely.
Right?
So it's like we need to get a hold of somebody at Angel Studios to get after it.
Say what? We'll get a hold of Jesse's dad. We'll get a hold of Gary Wayne. I'll be an actor. Jesse can be an actor. If you want to play a role, let's go. Well,
I'll play Bigfoot.
That poster is. I've played some roles before. You can't really see it, but that poster, I'm on the front of a gun magazine right there.
Nice. Look at you.
I did a couple commercials. I was like a hitman. That's the weird part about this. I was
Hence
like a
the name
hitman.
Biblical.
That's
Hitmen.
funny. That is funny.
Hey man, we can do it.
Dude, you
Let's
could
do
be Bigfoot. I'll be a satyr, and then
There you
Doc
go.
Brown could be the Indiana Jones guy in the movie,
Right.
where he's like
Yeah.
he's encountering with all these things, and he's like, "What did I do?"
Oh my God. Turn it into like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's funny. But seriously, that's what really needs to happen to blow the lid off all this stuff.
Well, isn't Mel Gibson working on something? another
Maybe.
Passion of the Christ or
I
something?
think he is, but again, it's not what we need.
Right.
I mean, it's
he's
pretty awesome. Like Passion of the Christ was an amazing movie.
yeah. When I
But
heard him
let's
on,
get some action.
that's what I'm saying, dude. When he was on Joe Rogan's show, he kind of talked a little bit of what he's going to model it around, and it implied to me that he was talking about like fallen angels. So
Yeah,
that
he's a
might be
little
kind of cool.
rogue. He's gone a little rogue now, which is good. Yeah, I mean, after that movie where there was the aliens where they were like holding his eyes open, you guys remember that?
Man,
What was that?
I can't remember. It's insane.
I
And
remember
after that
seeing
movie,
that.
he's just kind of lost it.
Really?
Which is not in a bad way. Just he's off the reservation. I don't know,
sure.
it's not the right way to put it either, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
He's not one of the blessed Hollywood folk anymore.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
funding his own movies now. It's like
Of
Kevin
course.
Costner's gone,
Right.
no, you're not going to make that movie, Kevin. Oh, yes, I am.
Right.
I will make it. And, whatever.
Yeah, they gave him the dough.
Mel's
Now he's
kinda-
running with it.
Yeah.
Mel's kind of doing the same thing.
Speaking about Hollywood, hard, sharp turn. Did you hear that Mike Myers got brought up in the Diddy case?
No way.
You didn't hear this?
Oof.
Yesterday, Mike Myers,
No way.
Shrek himself,
Austin Powers.
Austin
Powers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
baby.
He literally Diddy's
Got Diddy.
former agent or former assistant, Mike Myers, reached out because apparently Diddy's that guy. Mike Myers reached out to Diddy and wanted to have a meeting with the CIA at Langley. Can you believe that? So this happened. This happened. Give it a goog. He did have the meeting. Mike Myers went and toured Langley and then had lunch with whomever. And this was after he did all the Austin Powers. So he was like an English spy in Austin Powers. That was his role.
Yeah.
And this is after all the movies were already made. So it's just kind of odd the way it's worded. The article I read was just like kind of like, yeah, he just toured. Like it's like he went to the museum as well or something like that. They said it's like cool. So did he had the connect? Interesting. He's like the Epstein hip hop guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
That
Reminded
is
me.
a little crazy.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, did you guys also see, speaking of like people coming back from the dead kind of thing with Epstein, but did you see that the Argentinian president is releasing all the papers that they have on Hitler?
Oh, I heard about that briefly.
Yeah, because we basically know at this point that Hitler lived another 20 years in Argentina.
Yes. Yeah.
Even fathered more children.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the Argentinian government is declassifying all their stuff on it too. I mean, we do have alpine villages in the mountains of Argentina.
I know.
Right.
I think there's Oktoberfest there.
There's huge one. But so it's Oktoberfests in Spanish.
In Spanish.
That is
weird.
Very
so
dark
trippy.
beer
Yeah.
in Spanish.
I even think some of the architecture also resembles.
Yeah, like
Germany.
insane. Well, there's swastikas everywhere.
Golly.
I'm sure.
That's grandfather.
Yeah,
On
like
the
they're all
wall.
hidden at this point. Like if you ever watched the show
blonde.
on history called Finding, I think it was called Finding
was
Hitler.
Tim Kennedy, right?
Tim Kennedy and Marty Skovland and a couple other guys. They're all veterans who were on that show, and yeah.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
no,
I have a question for you. What are your thoughts on that community and that podcast world?
I
Great
was in it
question.
for a long time, man.
Were you?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
my first two podcasts were, the first one was called Cigars and Sea Stories, which was all just Marine Corps jackassery. Came out around the same time as like Drinking Bros and that whole stuff. We kind of, I'm not saying we're anything like them.
Gotcha.
We never got that big, but we had a lot of followers, right? And it was just,
It's a big
It was-
community, man.
it's huge.
It's a big market for it.
But then we transitioned to a more like helping veterans, and that podcast was called the Change Your POV podcast. But yeah, like veteran entrepreneurship is a pretty big thing. Like it's a big community, right? with some really, really cool folks in it. But the veteran community in general, I mean, I don't know.
Do you just try to stay out of it?
I'm just not in it like I used to be. With the
Probably
veteran
a good thing.
entrepreneurship stuff, I definitely mentor veteran entrepreneurs quite a bit. I am part of a infrastructure that kind of goes around with veteran entrepreneurship. I don't care if they hear these things. I talk
Yeah.
about it freely anyway. I let my freak flag fly,
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
even at these events. But yeah, I mean, it's full of a lot of good people, but I mean, it's just like any other community you got.
I don't know. I don't know. It's pretty
Well, it seems like a lot of conflict.
Well, there is some
So much.
conflict for sure.
All it seems
Some,
is like it's like you get all
Yeah,
these.
give me your take because then I can play off of
Dude,
that.
we both
Or
have
where
a
you're
really
going.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that what we're seeing is the personalities on the ground, on the line with military guys. It's come into the podcast realm where it seems like it's like it's a dick swinging contest.
Yeah,
it's not only that, but it's like
Excuse my language,
specific
but I meant what I said.
specifically who's telling the truth and who's not telling the full truth.
yeah, about like their shit there. No shit, there I was in the jungle, whatever stories.
Yeah. And you know what? I was telling my buddy last night, he wants to buy his kid a BB gun. And I like going out to the desert and shooting guns. And I've brought myself into the world. I was telling you about the magazine. I worked for a company that was called G Sight, and we made dry fire training cartridges. They were laser cartridges. We had an app. They just went out of business. I would go to SHOT Show, and it was a lot of fun. I got into the realm, so I kind of
Shot
understood.
show, Jesus, man.
Cool stuff, man.
Been there a few times.
Have you?
Just saying. Oh yeah. Well,
Dude,
I'll tell
amazing.
you a story if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah, go for it.
Dude, I want you to finish though.
Okay. So, long story short, my buddy's buying a gun, and I'm like, dude, the whole like military realm and like gun safety world and like the etiquette of everything is very complicated. But I told him like the most important thing is to eliminate your bad habits, and you got to figure out what bad habits those are. Like that's as a civilian and as a normal person shooting a gun, da 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 da. Eliminate the bad habits. He wants to show his kid how to shoot. Like you need to learn that first, and it's very complicated. But let's transfer to the military aspect, the military round. I consider the military, and I'm a civilian. My brother's 22 years Navy. He just retired. He was a weapons specialist on a boat somewhere off and somewhere multiple times, whatever. But the military realm with spec ops and stuff, it's over analysis paralysis, in my opinion. And these guys are just like on every millisecond, every millimeter, like they're covering every millimeter. And it is so wild to me. And then you watch them go to the podcast realm and you see them do the same thing in the podcast realm where they're like, I'm going to, I'm going to, I'm going to analyze what this guy's saying. I'm going to read his book. I'm going to analyze every millimeter of what he's saying. And the moment he slips up, I got
there to get him. Yeah, I know. Everybody embellishes. Everybody, has their own recollection, right, of events. And,
well, were you there? Right.
like I always say, opinions are like assholes and everyone's got one and they usually all stink.
Right.
So,
Well, it's like, were you there?
yeah,
That's as simple as that.
No. And who cares?
Right.
Who cares? Right? It's not a life or death thing here. Not recounting it. Right.
Just like Stevie was saying, it's an ego thing. Swinging
It's
the dang
mad
around.
ego, and I can't with the ego.
Yeah, what do you think about
David
ego?
Goggins? There's a lot of ego in our,
There is,
and all this too. And it's like I am a guy, and we've only talked twice, but I think at the end of the day, I am a rising tides raises all ships guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm gonna help you guys out and do the best that you can. Whether you're bigger than me, smaller than me, we can all learn something from each other.
Right.
Right.
And we will do the same for you.
I'm 51 years old. Right. And I've been in this game for a while, not just the podcast game, but I'm a entrepreneur. Like I've run and sold businesses. So, and stuff like that. Like I do, we all do things that nobody knows a damn thing about because we don't talk about it on our online persona, right? Now, if you dig into each other, if I dug into Steven, I could probably find out where he went to school and where he grew up. I could find out how much property taxes he's paying.
Yep.
You know what I mean? All this stuff.
I've said all of that on shows.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
It
I can
scares me
find
that he
out
says that because I know the property tax that Stevie pays, and it is phenomenal. And he has found a loophole, but I cannot believe you brought that up. That is
right. I'm
you're
just
scaring
saying
me right now.
It's
No,
cheaper than
but
groceries.
and this is why in the last 2 weeks I've been accused of being a Fed 3 times.
Well, I don't blame them.
I am not a Fed, just so you know.
I don't know if I
I
believe
mean,
you,
I
but
was
I
in
like
the
you.
Fed. No, but see, I do, you know, when you get to a certain point in life, you know things that other people just don't, like, or you know how to find them, right? You can find out anything.
You really can.
So it doesn't mean you're Fed.
Right. It means
It
we're
doesn't mean
just
I'm a paid. It doesn't mean I'm a paid. What was it today?
You got one today, huh?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just me. It's friends that we have. You're friends with them too. You've had them on your travel.
No way. Let's go through this. Let's hear it.
Trouble Garcia.
yeah. Trouble.
Yeah, got accused of being a. Anyway, I'm
He's
not
a nice
going
little
into all
raver,
that.
right? I didn't meet him.
He's such a good dude.
Such a good guy.
Dude, I really enjoyed. I wasn't for that. I wasn't there for that podcast, but I listened to it and I was like, dude, I like this because I'm from Las Vegas. EDC came here and like all my friends went and did that. I've never been, but
Right.
I saw the community build and I totally understand exactly everything he was saying.
I mean, I've done plenty. Let me put it this way: you're since you live in Vegas, you know Nellis Air Force Base.
Been there?
You know what goes on Nellis Air Force Base.
Yes.
I've been on Nellis Air Force Base a lot, doing a lot of training, shooting a lot of rounds.
I've worked for the original OG drone guys, Predator drones.
Right, but you know, so there's just stuff that happens when you're in the military and folks that you get, you know, exposed to. I mean, like I was in, anyway.
So you've worked at Nellis?
No, I just trained a lot there.
Wow.
Yeah,
How long?
In and out for probably about 2 years. And we used to just go there and bury our asses in brass.
Wow. Yeah, it's fun. I do the same thing in the desert as well, but not, I don't have enough money to bury that much brass. But.
Right. But, and that was, that was like contract, government contract stuff.
What did you think about the fighter jets buzzing the houses nearby all day, like all morning, every day? Is that normal?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, it's not abnormal. It depends on where you live.
I guess so, but the base is right there. There's so many houses.
Yeah,
dude,
so
I go there in the
you
morning.
live next to an Air Force base. What do you expect?
Man, it's so crazy to me, dude.
Because I think doesn't Nellis still have F-15s there?
I have no clue.
I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. I'm a partial owner in a defense company where we make stuff that glows in the dark, but only in the infrared spectrum.
Ooh.
So we have one of our flagship products is a crayon. It's the best way to describe it. It's a crayon that you can write with. And the only way that you can see it at night is with night vision goggles on. So it glows. It's like a chem stick. It's like a chem light, but an infrared chem light that you can write with.
Right. Kind of like Disney. You know how Disney used to do it with Jake Paul?
Don't compare it to Disney. Yes. And we make some crazy products for the warfighter, I guess is what you could say.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
well, how about the new F-47? That's going to get dropped.
And now what did they come out with an F5 too? That's like an ancillary. Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the F-22 and the F5, right? It's the same kind of one is a multi-role and the other one is a air superiority fighter. So
what are your thoughts with AI being the superior controller?
Terrifying.
Of
I don't
an aircraft
know what
like that.
I don't know, man.
You think of the movie Stealth?
Exactly.
Well, yeah, remember?
Yeah.
Or like the Terminator or like where are we going?
Why are we going?
Can I say this real quick? I have ran into a lot of fascinating people throughout the last 9 years here as a residential plumber in Vegas, all over the place. I mean, a lot of crazy people. Some stories I think might be out there, some are not. I ran into a guy that was like 86 years old, like 7 or 8 years ago. And he told me, long story short, he told me like all the aircraft you see, he worked on the SR-71. He said all the aircraft you see is an antique by the time it's disclosed to you.
Yeah, I would agree.
You believe that? Okay.
Yeah, so like the F-117, the stealth fighter. Well, I don't know why the hell they call it the F-117, but that was the Gulf War. That was the one that was flying into Baghdad. No, it was it's like the not the Batwing, the smaller one that looks like a triangle.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
I mean, that plane started to being developed in the 60s.
Right.
And it didn't make its debut in combat until the 90s.
So yeah, right. Well, it makes sense. A lot of
And
development.
it was almost obsolete before it even started.
Wow.
Because then you have the B-2 bombers, which are still being used now, the Batwing. I mean, dude, we have some terrifying stuff. It's actually not even fair. I mean, it's fair, and that is a deterrent, right? And that's what people have to understand. When you have such superiority with certain things, there's got to be somebody it's what it is can we as a nation and our leadership use that responsibly? And that's the shit we run into. These are the problems that we run into, because it's like having that omnipotent God you've got to have somebody with a big ass stick that's going to keep people in line.
Yeah.
And on the U.S. has traditionally been that way. Yeah. But we've lost a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
The thing is like, yes, China has like Generation 5 fighters as well, or working on Generation 6, but they have like 3 of them. Even if they had 12 of them, it doesn't matter. It's just not a fair fight.
It's not, man. The stuff I've seen out here in the desert and the sky all in the same place, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And I'm positive it's the military. It's aerospace. It's aerospace programs, Bigelow or whatever.
Absolutely, it's insane.
Yeah, it's
absolutely crazy.
There's no explaining it to you. Like, there's the stuff I've seen out in the desert. Like, there's only been a few things, 3 things. It's undescribable. It's insane. It's just like, you would think that's a alien technology.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is angel technology.
Yeah. Dude, you know what's crazy? I'm looking it up here. And one of the things about the F-47 that I found most interesting with its AI is that its AI can learn from battlefield conditions, and it adapts to evolving threats and scenarios. So with that concept, I think of, normal AI, basically, which what we use on an everyday basis pretty much.
Which large language models are that's not, it's AI, but it's not AI.
Right. And for its case, I looked up and I was like, how does AI learn? Like, what's the processor behind it? And so I found that it's called RLHF. It's called reinforcement learning from human feedback. So it's basically pulling in all the data, and it's like synthesizing its own humanity but from everything else in the world, and everyone
one of the
else.
reasons they keep it on the lag too, so they can control it more.
Yeah.
Right? So they keep it in a closed loop most of the time.
Well, isn't it scary?
Yes.
Like, we're up against something that's studied.
Well, we know Skynet's coming.
I know.
It's just
I know.
when.
Well, it's like we're in the stage where it's learning and it's studying, but it can also be, like, all of that could be used against us.
It's terrifying, Stephen.
You have the F-47 is going to start learning tactics. It's going to start learning strategies.
Here's what we have to. The only way that I can get through all this, and this is, and I think this is just lessons learned, right? Is, first off, we believe in Jesus Christ, right? And that whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
That's wild.
And that really we can, I mean, this goes for all the shit that we do anyway with knowledge. Like, the search of knowledge is good, but it can go overboard, right? It can take control of us, especially with things that we can't control. Sometimes it's cool to know, but what does knowing get you? Right?
Brother, AI has taken over, dude.
Yeah.
It's taken over.
It is absolutely going to take over. There's nothing that we can do about it.
There's nothing that we can do about it.
It's Pandora's box.
And the crazy thing is that we opened it.
We did.
Well, what did the Pope open? He opened something.
Something that was weird,
We
man.
opened
That was the whole
something.
thing was weird.
Dude,
But
did you see
there,
the guys with out the ears?
yeah, what was that? I mean, were they wearing, or was it normal men wearing those, the weird masks, like the blue men
Yeah, but
mask
you could see
stuff? What
holes.
was going on there? No, that's what I mean. But you know how, like, when you,
Yes, we know about the mask game with, I don't
right.
know, but
But what I'm saying, so where I'm going with this though, is that yes, I think as humanity goes forward, maybe, I mean, this is a theory I heard put forth a little while ago. Maybe the Antichrist is AI.
Okay, dude. Dude, you're opening up a whole nother. Me and Stevie have gone down this,
Right.
and basically,
Great minds think alike, man.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
What's the image, Stevie? Describe the
goodness.
image.
You want me to bring this up?
Just
Okay,
do
so
it as best you can,
Okay.
as quick.
Broadcasting seeds, Stevie.
I know exactly where to go. Give me a second here.
You just dump
This is
all of that right into the freaking.
Why did okay? Let me say this first before Stevie says that. Why did Elon Musk just go on Joe Rogan, whatever, a few months ago,
Yeah.
a couple months ago, and he said, "Listen, we have AI right now that's smarter than the smartest person on the planet, but by 2029 or 2030, we will have an AI smarter than every single human on the planet combined. There's no stopping you now. There's no stopping it." He didn't say there's no stopping it. I added that. But he's saying that's the time frame. By 2029 or 2030, we are going to have an AI that is unstoppable. It can do whatever it wants.
Yeah, man.
No,
That's
man.
Genesis. That's the Skynet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll make these two comparisons right here. Right. So when we look at the life of Christ, we know that the devil's going to imitate everything that he did and invert it in some way or shape or form. You know, Christ went through childhood. He was a baby, went through childhood, went through adolescence, went through young adulthood, and then, at the age of 30, started his ministry, right? And so what I see with that is God took the process of going through all of those stages. Now AI is going through those same stages.
Right.
And when you dig into Revelation 13, it's probably one of the most impactful chapters in Revelation. Talks about the false prophet, talks about the man of sin, talks about the image of the beast, and this whole ritual that goes on in the midst of all of these characters coming together at this point in time. And when I get into the image of the beast and I look at it, we'll read it right here. So it says in Revelation chapter 13, first, let me find it here real quick. Okay. All right. So, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and overcome them. I'm sorry, hold on. Let me go up a little bit more. I'm butchering this real quick. Hold on. Let me find it here. Continue on. Let me find this. Hang on.
Have you guys ever heard of the book or watched the show American Gods? You should watch it.
Write that one down.
It's on Stars. It was like
Stars, OG, old school.
it was like 17 through 21, like 1970, 20.
Okay,
What's called Old
27.
American Gods?
It's called American Gods, and it's basically it's actually a book by Neil Gaiman, I think is how you say his name.
Okay.
And it's a mythological fantasy adjacent novel that kind of explores what happens when the old gods, and that's how I say the old gods, like little g gods, right? From various world religions find themselves displaced in modern America.
Whoa. Oh, dude. I'm gonna have to check that one
It
out.
gets a little twisty. Gods like Odin, which his name is, and so it's educational too, because it's actually Odin, but his name in the book and in the show is Mr. Wednesday.
What?
But you guys know what Wednesday is named after. It's Woden's Day.
I did not know
Woden's
that.
Day. Yeah. So just take it, what it'll do is it's just a lesson in
Woden's Day. What's that?
That's Wednesday. Look up the origin of Wednesday.
Origin.
Wow.
I'll check
Yeah,
that out.
yeah, Woden's Day, yeah. Or Odin's Day, right? Something like that. Odin's Day. Yeah. I've seen
Wednesday.
that.
Wednesday, right? But
I say that every time I write it.
Every time.
Every time.
All right. Well, let's hear this verse.
Okay.
so
Go ahead.
go ahead.
All right, so Revelation 13, this is talking about the beast, right, coming out of the sea, this huge Atlantean like style empire, and there's a false prophet character, there's a man of sin, right? And so we're here at Revelation 13, verse 14. It says, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So this man who is not, fully possessed by Satan just yet, suffers a fatal head wound, dies, and is again, right? So we have that invert
and then is risen.
and is
right?
risen. And we
It's
have the
that Christ-like thing.
exactly. We have the counterfeit of what he's doing against Christ, right? And so after that, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Like right there is the apotheosis ritual of the Antichrist. Like we have when you look at Washington D.C., you see that there's a lot of Roman and Egyptian architecture, and it's there for a reason. You have the obelisk, which is in front of
The
the
Egyptian revival stuff.
all of that ancient Osiris rising, all of that, all those rituals, right? Well, when you
What's
look
the
at
obelisk?
when you look at that tradition and you look at that ritual and you look at the ancient cultures that have gone through it, they're trying to usher in their God.
Yes, right.
But they do it with every pharaoh and president that comes through the system. They're just waiting for that reincarnation process to take place, right? So when we're looking at the image of the beast, he's like, it says here, it says right here, we should. This is after the death and resurrection, not resurrection, reincarnation. It's reincarnation, right? Because it's not the man that actually died. It's now it's Satan.
Like cloning, sort of. Is actually,
Yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it.
From my perception with the image of the beast, because it says after the death of that person, it's given life into the image after they created this image. Maybe it's a homunculus, because when I think of this scenario playing out, it reminds me of the movie X-Men. It reminds me of the movie X-Men Apocalypse, where they, in the beginning, right? In the beginning of the movie, you have this ritual that's taking place where it's trying to transfer the consciousness of the main number one mutant from its dead state into a new living body. And I mean, when you look at Washington, D.C., we have the crypt of George Washington, then we have the apotheosis of George Washington. It's the same thing. And maybe this is what happens. I don't know. But it's AI consciousness that goes into this
So imagine
thing. I don't know.
Hear me out right here.
It's transhumanism as well.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So imagine Elon Musk is sitting on an operating table and they're putting a chip into his head, and then he flatlines, and then he comes back to life. And then he wakes up and now he is sentient, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, he's
Imagine that.
not himself anymore.
He's not himself anymore. Well, he's not his original self.
Right. No, man, there's so many. Oh, it just gets so wild, and like theories go wild. They do.
You know what's crazy too is the movie
With scripture, of course.
The movie Avengers: Age of Ultron. The same scenario is playing out.
Well, I mean, even Harry Potter, man. Look at Voldemort. Out dead. He doesn't have his body anymore, and there's all this hero's journey stuff. That
Harry had a should have been a mortal head wound.
Yeah,
and he lived.
Right. So I mean, you know what I mean. So stuff is wild.
Whoa.
Wednesday is Woden's Day. Comes from Old English, Woden's dag, meaning Woden's day. The Anglo-Saxon form of Odin is Woden, the All-Father. Thursday is Thor's Day.
Thursday.
You know what
Wow.
that makes me think of now? It makes me think like let's say that when this process is taking place, they're going to use these days with their actual meaning.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Friday is Frigg's Day or Freya's Day, depending on the source, right?
Right. Can't Odin be compared to like Lucifer or Zeus or?
Yeah, well, Thor could definitely be compared to Zeus. Odin, there's so many different correlations there, right? I mean, bottom line is like Odin was the god of wisdom, war, death, poetry, magic, prophecy, sacrificed his eye for the wisdom, right? Hung himself from the world tree, pierced by his own spear for 9 days to gain knowledge of the ruins, right? Like there's so many corresponding and allegorical things that go on here, with the little g gods. Lots of esoteric and like biblical parallel stuff, right? It's insane. And, yeah. But American Gods is actually a really cool show. It just kind of gives you an insight to some of the other, from around the world. So what I've found myself doing is like pausing and like looking up the different gods that they're talking. I mean, Easter, right? It's, the Eustra. I mean, it's so blatant.
Ishtar.
Yeah. Right.
It's crazy, man.
The fertility god, right?
Yeah. And
why
so
do
at the
we
end of the day,
use the eggs?
well, it's just, and this is why the church can only take it so seriously with religion. The word of God is totally different. So,
Right.
I mean, as we know, traditional American Christianity is very watered down.
Oh, man.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we need to go full deliverance ministry because that has its own set of issues as well, right? Where they corrupt things and
right.
Anyway, there's just got to be like this judicious thing where we figure out something in the middle and what does the Bible say? Right. Because I think the rest is distraction. Like you and I, Stephen, have talked a lot about the Satan's Little season. My opinion, it's just a giant distraction to keep people from coming. It's sowing seeds of doubt, hence the name broadcasting seeds. These are seeds of doubt in people's minds of what does it really mean to be Christian? What do I actually believe? Right.
Right.
That's a big opinion of mine.
Yeah.
I think it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The little season thing, it's interesting. I mean,
of course it's interesting.
It's
all
just
interesting.
I think there's a lot of things that take place before the little season that are kind of like it's like the scars that are left on the earth for people to see,
Where are
that
they?
hey, wow. I mean, the Bible's talked about the millennial reign, all these things really happen, in everyone's view. So it's difficult to digest because a lot of go ahead.
I think that people get so caught up in the minutia of human thinking that it doesn't allow them to think outside the box enough to understand the Bible completely, right? I think that they're trying to play by our societal and cultural rules and take that and transfer it to a supernaturally induced document written by God through other people, right? Like I've met a couple folks that they just can't handle that. It's like, do you not understand actually that the Bible is written as by different prophet or different people telling the same story? Like, so yeah, they might not all remember it exactly the way that
right.
It's the same. So what you have to do is take all those stories, and yes, you're going to jump back and forth, and you put these things, and where does everything rhyme and come together, right?
It's fascinating how it does.
It
You know,
does.
Stephen
And it
talks about
actually does, but so many people don't see it that way. And because it doesn't make sense to them.
well, ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of information.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into dispensationalism, but Stevie talks about that a lot as well, and it's a fascinating topic. Like, I think it's really important to talk about. But going back to the little season, I will counter the. There's also another side of it to where now you have the people that didn't ever think of Jesus or believe in the Bible start to think of Tartaria and lost time and hidden time, and then they actually find out the story of Jesus, and they actually look into it, and they are brought to God that way as well, or brought to Jesus.
Yeah,
You know,
no, absolutely.
that can happen too.
There are people that do that too, right?
Right. Of course. You know, that's but to say that though, to go back to that, it's like, what? We got to have Ed Mabry on. You know, we're
Dude, he's so
gone.
good.
Yeah, we have him on soon. I mean,
Complicated topic. It really is.
yeah,
It is, but it's not. I
For me,
don't
it
think
is.
it's that. Yeah. No, but I really don't think it's that, because I think, like I said, I think a lot of the folks get caught around these little details of like the time stuff. Like, but who cares?
Right.
Because here's the deal.
Read the Bible.
Well, it doesn't even matter, because some of the Bible doesn't make sense either, time wise. Like and Ed will even say it, you've got the 69 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're like in this, in this limbo between the 69th and the 70th week, right? But just the fact that we don't know how long that is drives people insane. They're like, no, that can't be real because we don't know.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the point. It's not your time frame. Again, the Bible again is not a story about us either. The Bible is a story about God, and it's his story. It's not ours.
Well, how could we?
If you guys
No,
agree with
I
that,
agree
but
with you. I mean, there's only one way to learn who God is, and it's his story. And then a lot of people will bash, well, why? Well, if he knew this was going to happen, well, why did he allow it to happen?
he lives outside of that,
Right.
and people can't grasp
Well,
that idea.
one thing that sticks to me too is like,
Drives me
how
crazy.
else, because I'm a father, we're all fathers, and I see life in a different lens now. I actually see it from a little bit closer to like God's eye view of things, right?
You're taking care of a
How
child.
frustrated is God, do you think?
Right. Well, the thing is I can't show my kid how much I love them unless they make mistakes, unless they do something that's wrong. And I punish them, and then they feel hurt. And then I go and I show them, hey, I love you. It's okay. Screwed up. You're going to screw up a lot more, but I'm right here. But I have to teach you. It's a lesson.
Yeah,
Brother,
Well,
right.
I love doing that with my 8-year-old son. He's at the age now where that's exactly I get to sit down and have conversations with him. And when I don't want to say punish, when I take his phone away, which he doesn't have a phone really, but when I take things away from him, and because he's acting up, and then or he's not doing what I want him to do, and he's not listening, and I sit down with him at night and I go over those things. I love you, buddy. I'm doing this for your benefit. You will only get stronger if you learn this and you learn discipline. And it's a beautiful thing. And you're so right, Stevie. That's exactly where the true love comes. It's not like, hey, good job at everything you do, and give him a hug, give him a trophy around every corner.
right.
It is the discipline. It is the hard road traveled, and then showing them, hey, I love you. I'm bringing you down this road because I love you.
Uh-huh.
Best way I found, and I've raised 4 daughters, and my oldest is 30 and my youngest is 16. And I am the poster father for natural consequences.
Touch the hot stove, right?
And it's hard to father that way a lot of times, right? Because you're like, dude, just listen to what I tell you and everything will be okay. But that's not how it works.
Not how life
It's
works,
not
right?
how folks learn. Children and people, us too, adults, you literally only learn two ways, right? Mindless repetition or blunt force trauma.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, and if you live life that way, you just have to look at those things, and that part is black and white, but there's so much gray in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of how I think God is. And sometimes you get the blunt force trauma, but a lot of it's mindless repetition, doing the right thing over and over again, even when no one's looking. So we talk about character, right? Yeah. I don't know.
This whole life that we live, our experience starts, I guess, at a certain conscious level when we're young, and then it gets to a point to where we're old, and then we look back and we're like, I can't remember when I first started. Like, I can't remember the beginning. I can't remember the first few weeks, right? Or even months or years. I can't remember it. And what's interesting too, right, is because every man, every woman is going to experience the first death, right? Unless like you're raptured out of here for some reason. But when you look at life from 10x zoom out, right? If that makes any sense. But you're super, super zoomed out. You're looking at it from a big scale. When we see, life brought into this world, it went from one estate to the other. Like it went from the womb, it went from where it was created, to where it was destined for. And so I see the same thing with life and death. And our home is with Christ, and our home is after death, pretty much. Our time here, it's like we're in the womb.
Wow.
And we're with our earth, which is Mother Earth, right? Like the creator. Or not the creator, I'm sorry. But we came from the earth. It's like the umbilical cord,
Be
for the
careful now.
baby.
Just
Forgive me,
straight
guys. Sorry,
pagan
that
on
wasn't.
us. I didn't
Come
realize.
on now. Gonna get some hate for that, but you know what I meant. But look at that, right?
Okay.
You've got the umbilical cord attached to the baby. You got us created from the dust,
No.
and so
Beautiful.
there will be that. Death to me is the birth.
Yeah.
To where
I mean,
we're a new body, right? It's
Wow.
all we're in our
Yeah.
actual state to where we're like, yes, this is who I am. I don't know.
You sound like a hippie, Steven.
no, it just totally makes sense, though. I mean,
Well, it's biblical.
here's the thing,
Yeah,
though, is
right.
like so much makes sense. Like I know like reincarnation isn't brought, and I don't mean reincarnation in like a Buddhist type of sense. I mean like near-death experience, like the stories that a lot of folks that have near-death experiences come back with this knowledge that we kind of are up in heaven or whatever you want to call it, in this collective type of consciousness to an extent, but it's not it's not a collect, it is a collective consciousness, but you're all individuals, right? And I don't know if I believe that, but it sounds kind of cool. Like, meaning like you chose to come down here and learn in the flesh, just like Jesus did, right?
Did you
Does
choose
that,
to, or did God give you the?
right? It's what I'm wondering, because a lot of people talk about contracts and they talk about things like, this is what I'm going down there to learn this time.
It's fascinating when you look at that spark of light that they see in the womb of conception.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
It's
Like
a beautiful.
they have it on video.
Yes, they have it on video.
What is that called? There's a name for it though. Besides
Spark of life. I
But
don't know.
besides that, smart ass, like a zinc something or other, and I can't
Oh
remember what they
yeah.
call
I
it.
think you're right. Yeah, zinc. Shit. Excuse me.
Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
No, I think it's something with zinc. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's that little flash, right? But I don't know, and it's like that's when that consciousness is put in there.
Yeah.
It's like
Soul.
What's the
like
soul?
the soul.
Yeah.
Like, what is the soul?
You know what's crazy is that John 1 actually kind of like may reference this.
What?
So it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So I don't know if you could take that verse was the light of men, and
Hmm.
I don't know what that really means.
Well,
Who knows?
I feel like sometimes men means humans.
Sure.
It's not just like a man or a woman.
Yeah, right.
In
Yeah.
him
But I
was
could be wrong.
life, and the life was the light of men. The living soul.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about, though? Like, have you ever watched any of those
Yeah,
near-death experience podcasts? Some of them are pretty,
they're wild,
you're like,
man.
wow. Like, they're wild, like, but really touching, amazing stories, right?
My
Yeah.
dad actually, we had my dad on, and he brought up a couple of them, and I've seen them as well. And it's like, it's crazy how these people like they die, either see Jesus or their loved ones, and they come back talking about seeing their grandma or their mother, and it's like
Or, yeah, just, it's
it's
crazy.
so accurate to a point where it's like, how do you not believe
You know
that?
what? You know what playing
Right.
ground I think it can lean into though. I think it could be a spiritual war right there too. And this is from a near death experience that I heard, and it was a guy who basically was dead. He was in his ghost body outside of his his actual body walking around, and there's his family members are there, right? His old family members are there, but they're in like a younger form, and they're telling him it's his time to go. It's his time to go. Come with us. And so he had this eerie feeling
Right.
because on the other side of him, this big pit opened up, and he just knew it was just like full of. It was just
Yeah,
empty, and it was
that's when you turn around and go
right,
the other
right.
way.
But his family members were like, "Hey, come with us. It's your time."
Yeah.
And so he's like hesitant, and he kind of is, and he's stopping himself from fully committing. And this light shines from behind him, and he's like, and as soon as the light shined in his mind, he knew it was an imposter. He knew it was an
Oh,
imposter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, his family members started to change, and they got upset, and they went into the pit, and he
Oh,
went back into his body, and he found God. And I'm like, what?
brother.
Like but that's the type of stuff, like that's spiritual warfare, just at a
Yes.
different level, right?
Brother, my dad has been talking about the panspermia, kind of the
Astronaut theory.
maybe, but no, the soul catcher on the moon. You've heard of that, right?
I
So there's this reincarnation process to farm. It's a panspermia, like to farm the souls, right? And my dad's like telling me, and I've heard this. He heard this from me. He doesn't. I'm not saying he fully believes it, but he's certainly seduced and fascinated by it. And I rebuke that. I really do. But he believes, he's like, well, I shouldn't say he believes, but he was telling me, he goes, some of these people talk about, like, what if going to the light is reincarnating into the soul catcher? And then you just you stay in the loop. But what if you turn around and go the other way where you should be? And I'm like, goodness gracious. I'm like, it sounds rough, but I'm like, what you just said just reminded me of that, because it's like, dude, go towards the light, bro.
Well, I just said it's, but here's this. I'm just reading this real quick. It's this core claim. So it's the soul farm on the moon.
Yeah.
So the core claim is that the moon is not a natural satellite, but an artificial or repurposed construct that acts as a soul trap, soul recycling station, or spiritual farm operated by archonic, reptilian, or demonic entities. After death, human souls are intercepted by a false light tunnel, are judged and memory wiped, are reincarnated back on Earth for another cycle of suffering. This is described by some as the soul trap matrix theory.
Yep.
Holy crap! I've never heard of this.
You never
well,
heard of
where
that?
did this
No,
all originate from?
So
I don't know.
Gnostic cosmology, Gnostics believe the world is ruled by archons or lower celestial beings who trap divine sparks, souls, in flesh, which would just be like fragmented souls, right? Soul fragmentation theory, that they use them to like spark clones and all kinds of
Eat
stuff
their
gets
flesh,
deep.
eat their soul,
Right.
consume what's it called? What's it called, Stevie? When they take your they take loosh. They absorb the loosh.
Energy
The
harvesters.
loosh. Yeah.
Energy
Well, you know what's so
harvesters.
funny? In all the alien movies, man, they come here for a resource. They come here to harvest something. It's either water from the ocean
Right.
in Battle of Los Angeles, or if it's War of the
Or
Worlds,
whatever.
where they're like, oh, we need the humans to fertilize the planet and to make it abundant with food. They were just, our bacteria killed them.
Right.
Out
You know
of
what I
all
think is
things.
hilarious about the ocean and about like one of these theories that the UFOs they're the reason why they go into the water is because they power their ships with hydrogen. I don't believe that. I think
Right.
they live there. I think they live.
Yeah. No, I mean, this even gets into David Icke and reptilian agenda.
Dude,
Yeah.
and where did that come from?
I follow him a little bit with some things. Not some things.
Oh, he gets wild, but David Icke popularized blah blah blah. Believes it helps power the Matrix, simulated reality run by reptilian overlords. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know where he got that was who's the one lady from like the late 1800s, early 1900s that talked a lot about so much stuff, which is freaky. I never really dove into her. I can't remember her name though. She talked about a lot about reptilians, and that's where David Icke drew from her books. What was her name? It's famous lady. Everybody in the community talks about her. What was her name?
I mean, the reptilians thing, that could also be seraphim. I mean, if you really think about it, if you want to bring it back to the Bible, seraphim are known, they're snakes or they're reptilian angels or whatever.
Right.
Heck.
Serpent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I think
talks
we
about
could
art.
probably go on for hours doing this.
I know. I love it.
But we are at 2 hours.
Let's go,
and 8
baby.
minutes.
Let's go. Yeah,
We did
man.
it.
Did it.
We did it, guys.
Yeah.
We broke the barrier.
This was
did.
therapy for me, guys. Thank you.
Well, good. It turned into something I wasn't expecting, but that's fine because it's my show, but it's not my show. You know what I'm saying? I don't like talking so much, but yeah. Michael Heiser, they bring him up here too. That dude's a wizard. But either way, broadcasting seeds, right? What I want each of you to broadcast your own seeds and plant some seeds with my audience on, things that you think on or that you would like people to think on and plant some seeds.
Wow. Beautiful. Stevie, you go first this time.
Yeah, no. So first of all, thanks for having us on, man, and what a conversation it was. But if I was to share anything, with the audience, it's seek truth and find your own path to the truth, and it really it all comes from our interaction with what we have going on in our lives and our world and all that. Everyone's experience is different. Dive into conspiracies. I think it'll bring you to the Bible, and if you dove into the Bible first, I'd say, hey, trail it to conspiracies because there's so many connections, man. I think there's a lot of supernatural things, especially the concepts that we get into and talk about that have deeper explanation and deeper meaning. Just giving the Bible a chance, if that is, tough to swallow. But yeah, man, I mean, geez, I think we broadcasted a lot of seeds in this episode.
I think our peoples are like,
Yeah,
what the heck?
go back, man, and some of the things we brought up, go check them out. And, if you want to come and, check out our show, you can find us on YouTube. There's a bunch of broadcasting seeds on there, man. And, pick and choose which one you want to dive into. No, we're on all kinds of social medias too, Instagram, X, Facebook, and, all of the places. The Biblical Hit.
Amen. Amen. All right. My message is we all fall short of the glory of God, and we all are an example of that. And try not to judge so much. Try to keep an open mind in a way to where you don't fall into traps, I guess you can say, keep an open mind. I not long ago falling into those Gnostic traps, and I didn't know that. Very not that long ago. I've gained faith, and I had a story where I was in my grandmother's bedroom after her funeral. I slept in her bedroom after her funeral, and I was in a really hard time in my life, and I was on the ground and I was doing push-ups because I was just really angry, and I fell to the ground and I was crying, and I said, God, I said, Jesus specifically, show me that you're real. I don't believe you're real. Just please show me you're real. And I had a hand touch my back, and it lit my body up with warmth. And I sat up and was like, well, it felt like it wasn't. A lot of people would say it's your grandma. Did not feel like my grandma's hand. Ever since then, I tried to look more into the Bible and tried to follow that way, and I fell again and fell again and fell again and fell again. So don't give up. Just be a good person. That's my. Just be a good person. Just try your best to look for the truth, like Stevie said.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a firm believer that, like, when you bring up the Gnostic trap, it's kind of the way it is, right? It's very alluring. That secret knowledge, right? This is what I think that the little season is. Satan's little season. It's this twisted, like, allure of the secret knowledge and esoteric wisdom, you know, that we're all, it's very alluring to all of us. But at the end of the day, and this is the seed that I'm going to drop today, and I haven't really talked a lot about it. I mean, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm just getting deeper into this, though. Is if the linchpin is not Jesus, something ain't right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Good point, man.
It's
Boom.
really that simple. It's really that simple. If the linchpin to all of the stuff you're looking into or believing and what you want to believe, if the linchpin isn't that Jesus Christ died for our sins, he's your Lord and Savior, it's not right.
Trust me, your life will change. Your perspective will change.
Yeah. Eh,
It will, because a lot of this stuff will fall away. It's cool to look at it, but it doesn't mean the same thing. So
You have to believe. You have to have faith.
you do. You have to have that faith.
And how you get brought there, I got brought there from that. I can't say that you'll get brought there from the same reason. I can't say how you'll get brought there. I don't know. But just keep looking. Keep looking for the truth.
Yep. And ask.
right.
Ask him.
Right.
You can't have a relationship unless you have a relationship.
Exactly. Just to capitalize on what you said about the little season and stuff, there are certain things that have brought people to the Bible. There's certain conspiracies that gravitate people towards the Bible in whatever certain way it is. But don't let the conspiracy be the foundation of your faith. And if you can build an actual relationship with Christ and work off that, that would be a seed I'm broadcasting, because don't let these conspiracies that seem to have no end to the rabbit hole, right? To where, like, for example, that little season and with Tartaria and all this other conspiracies that lean people to that, Christ already came and reigned. I compare it to very similar things like flat Earth, right? Like, there's a lot of interesting things with flat Earth, right? But you just don't know, and don't lean on the conspiracy so much to having it be the structure of your faith. It's reverse it, because let's just say, who knows, right? Like, we talk about psyops on the show all the time. What if these are psyops to get you to fall away from the faith once it's been either exposed or disproven or debunked, whatever it is, because it'll shoot you down, it'll destroy you. You'll be lost almost indefinitely because you're like, whoa, hold on, where am I at?
The powers that are trying to do this have been doing this for thousands of years, and they're really, really good at it. And they know exactly what you're thinking. So how do you combat that? You combat that with faith. That's what you combat it with.
Exactly.
You cannot shake me now.
Exactly.
It seems easy, but it's not easy.
Right.
So I used to say it all the time. It's simple, but it ain't easy.
Better said than done.
Yes.
Easier
but it
said
ain't
than done.
easy. Easier said than done, for sure. Guys, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and it was a good time. I hope to do it again in the future.
Of course,
I'm
absolutely.
glad we had a long episode. This was
Longest
a good
episode I've
therapy
made.
session for me.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, brother.
Thanks, brother.
He who controls the mind controls the war. But first, he must silence the noise.
Hey, yo. Straight from the catacombs where the scrolls was hidden, where monks chant verses and the watchman's risen. Broadcasting seeds, son, it ain't just a show. It's a frequency shift from the realm below. Encrypted speech from the outer courts with a bloodline of kings and celestial reports. Got Nephilim tech in a backpack word, while these reptile suits try to censor the word. Yo, I step through portals with the mic as my torch, dropping sermons so raw they send drones to the porch. They surveil what I spit, can't silence the flame. Got angels in camo with encrypted names. We talking black ops and black robes, fallen stars with zip codes, temple scrolls and time codes, beasts with 10 horns in stealth mode. From Mount Hermon to the Grand Canyon vaults, where the Smithsonian buries humanity's faults. But we dig with the pen, slice lies with the flow, like Elijah on the mountain when the fire hit the show. Yo, this is spiritual warfare in stereo, holy scripts flipping through the technicolor burial. No fiction, just friction between realms, dropping bars like prophecy with angelic helm. So when you tune in, just know what it is. It's ancient war drums, not a podcast for kids. It's the Watchtower gospel, wrapped in grit, broadcasting seeds. We the last ones legit. Straight truth, no fluoride filter. Ghost in the wise with the soul of a builder. Welcome to the front lines, the kingdom cries out. So grab your armor, your mic, and cast the doubt out.
I want to let you homes that the tattoo species sent in its prisons. It's water, wet and tired.